Posture okey ya? Posture macam ni okey. Tak payah apa dia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to this conversation today, a talk show with a very special guest, Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin Miri from Malmö, Sweden. My name is Muhammad Jamaluddin. I'm from ACCIN, the Allied Coordinating Council of Islamic NGOs Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, you have not heard wrong. Don't check your channel or your voice, because this is two Jamaluddins. People might think it's not Jamal. Oh, how come the moderator is Jamaluddin, the guest is also Jamaluddin? But we are not going to discuss about the story of two Jamaluddins today. It's a very interesting talk that a lot of us are not too familiar with. That is the story of the Al-Sunnah in Iran, the history of Al-Sunnah in Iran. And this event is brought to you by ACCIN and IKRAM, Pertubuhan IKRAM Malaysia. And we go a long way. Brother Seyed Jamaluddin and myself, we met in all places in April 2023 in Amritsar, India, and in Dharamsala. That was our trip to visit His Holiness Dalai Lama. We had a long session of dialogue, about 15 visitors from Malaysia, and also 2 from Sweden and 1 from the United States. We had a very long discussion, and in my discussion with Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin, we discussed about the life of the Sunnis in Iran. So we found that was a very interesting topic. Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin, if I may, he is also in the process of writing a book on the life of the Sunnis in Iran. He's all for unity. So welcome, Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin. Thank you very much for coming.
Barakallahu feekum, jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much.
Inshallah. And I'm sure Sweden is very cool.
Right now, actually not. Right now
No.
it's summer, but
Summer,
I mean,
yeah.
our summer is probably your winter.
No, I think we all know in Malaysia we have 3 seasons. Three seasons, yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
It's hot, hotter, and hottest.
Allahu Akbar.
That's.
Allah.
But if you want to add the 4th season, is the durian season, kan? So we have 4 seasons. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khairan.
Welcome again to Malaysia.
Barakallahu feekum.
Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin is co-founder of the International Students of Islamic Psychology. I think he has been working very hard to promote Islamic psychology, and there's a wide body of knowledge that we can talk about, but not in the realm of the discussion today. I would like to start the conversation today with probably your history of your family, Ustaz Seyed. Where were you and how you journeyed to Sweden? I think the audience will be quite interested to know your background and the story behind your opening trip to Sweden. Yeah.
Barakallahu feekum.
Please.
Barakallahu feekum. Bismillah wal alhamdulillah wa salawat wa salam ala rasulullah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa min wallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To my beloved brothers and sisters, colleagues, dear Malaysia, dear Nusantara, dear Ummah, dear world. I want to first and foremost thank Ustaz Jamaluddin, and also I want to thank Ustaz Jamaluddin, this Ustaz Jamaluddin. I think you need to cut off that the YouTube there, yeah, Ustad, because I hear myself there. Thank you so much, Ustad Jamaluddin, for inviting me to join this. I want to thank the host organizations, ACCIN, and also IKRAM, for the amazing work you guys are doing in uniting Muslim civil society, NGOs, and organizations in Malaysia. I see Malaysia and the wider Nusantara, including Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, south of Thailand, West Philippines, as the center of Islamic thought, of Islamic education, of Islamic sciences, of the revival movement of Islamic sciences into our contemporary era, thanks to the great, pioneers of this modern era, like Sheikh Seyed Naqib Al-Atas, Professor Osman Bakr, and many of the great leading scholars of our Islamic contemporary tradition. Of course, Professor Malik Badri, rahimullah, which I consider to be my father, both spiritually and also educational-wise, had his base in Malaysia for over 20 years, and he is the father of modern Islamic psychology. So we are forever indebted, dear brothers and sisters, for you guys in Malaysia. And Malaysia is not only the center of Nusantara, together with Indonesia, Singapore, of course, and Brunei, and Philippines, and Thailand. It's also the center of the Ummah in many ways when it comes to rooted revival, as my teacher, Dr. Shenturk, always say. So we're forever grateful for the institutions that you guys have built, the universities that you guys have built, the NGOs, and ACCIN and IKRAM is a presentation of this, a representation of this. So Jazakallah khairan for allowing me to sit here, and to all of you who are watching from YouTube, Assalamu alaikum to you all as well. I'm very honored to be with you all. And I'm just a student of knowledge like all of you, I'm sure you are. So this topic is very dear to me. Al-Sunnah's history in Iran. I am of the Al-Sunnah of Iran. I am a person who, as Ustad Jamaluddin mentioned, I'm very interested in different fields of Islamic thought, and in particular Islamic psychology. And it was actually through my studies in Islamic psychology that I started to realize, wait a minute, all these scholars that we're speaking about in our studies are actually Persians. At least 80% of them I didn't even know were Persians. And I went to my father and I said, Baba, why didn't you mention about these scholars, And he didn't know either, So it's kind of like modernity has taken away our connection to our roots. And this is not only the issue in Iran. If you go, I'm sure even in Malaysia or, in Turkey or, in Nigeria, if you ask the common person, about, scholars from your tradition, maybe not all of them, know who is these scholars. Like if you say, who is Taftazani to a general, Taftazani was Persian, by the way. But, if you speak about, or partially Persian, if you speak about, Seyed Nursi, for instance, maybe not all people today know who Seyed Nursi is, in Turkey. Or if you speak about Maududi, for instance, do every people, in Mauritania or Mali or Nigeria know about this great scholar of the West Africas, So this is not just a phenomenon in Iran and in the Persian cultural sphere. This is a phenomenon in modernity, because modernity is influencing Muslim minds indirectly, and modernity, its essence and its epistemology and ontology is that they don't believe in tradition. They don't believe in sanad. They don't believe in a connection to the past. But as Muslims, we believe in the Sunnah, and the Sunnah is preservation of tradition, right? So for me, I was quite shocked in a positive way of how many of the scholars in Islamic psychology were Persians and Sunnis, Then it's kind of like, how come modernity does not know about this? And there's different reasons. I think colonization has been one of them, I think nationalism has been an issue as well. And these things we will speak about later. So my journey to my interest in deepening my knowledge of the Ahl-Sunnah tradition within the context of Iran and the Persian culture sphere came actually from my studies in Islamic psychology, right? And then my family is very mixed. And Iran is a very diverse country. It's a beautiful country. I recommend all of you to visit the beautiful country of Iran. People of Iran are very hospitable, very kind, very generous. So essentially, from my mother's side, so we are, my family is, in a sense, lineage is Arab, in the sense that we're from the Ahl al-Bayt. So both from my father and my mother's side. And then from my mother's side, we have a Turkish lineage, because my grandmother, she was born in Grozny, which is the capital of Chechnya. And their connection there is that they are from the Turkish minority, or they're not minority, but the Cherkes, Turks. My grandmother spoke fluent Turkish and Russian. So my family is a mixed Persian, Turk, Arab. And if you look at the Persians generally, Persians as an ethnicity is a minority in Iran. Many people are Azari, which is like Turks, right? Or they are Bandari, which is, many of the Bandaris are Afro-Iranians, by the way. We have like a lot of, African Iranians in the south of Iran that are black, for instance, and they're Iranians, Or you have people from Baluchistan who are Baluchis, or you have Loris, or you have Ahwazis, which are the Persian Arabs, for instance. You have Afghanis, you have Tajikis, and you have Kurdish, So Iran is a very diverse country with regards to ethnicity, right? And Iranian is the identity that includes different ethnicities. So just because you're an Iranian doesn't mean that you are a Persian, right? And just because you're Iranian doesn't mean that you're Shia. You can also be Sunni, So this is common perceptions that people think that all Iranians are Persians, which is not true, and all Iranians are Shias, which is not true. There are Shias and Sunnis in Iran, and there are many different ethnicities in Iran. Of course, in Iran we have Jewish people, and they're anti-Zionist Jews, by the way. Yes, and they live in Iran today, and there are synagogues in Iran today. And actually, if we go back to the pre-Islamic history of Iran, Kurush the Great or Cyrus the Great saved the Jews, and actually brought them back to Jerusalem the way that Sayyidina Omar radiallahu anhu did. So actually, and I love Cyrus the Great. I love him. He was an amazing leader. And many, Allahu Alam, there's this, we know that there were many prophets that we don't know about, and there's been, both in our tradition, discussions, and even in contemporary era, that maybe Cyrus was a prophet. Allahu Alam, we don't know. We know that there's so many prophets beyond those that are mentioned in the Holy Quran, and that all nations had a prophet, but we don't know about them, right? So who knows? But I know that there has been a discussion that Cyrus the Great might have been from our tradition, from our traditional scholars. But I digress. Why I'm mentioning this is that the Iranian heritage of diversity of thought, of unity, of, as you say in Malaysia, wasatiyah, of harmony between different religious groups has always been there since the dawn of Islam, since even pre-Islamic times, of course. It's been there, and that's why I always try to mention myself as a reflection in my lineage, in my nasl, in my nasab, as very much part of this harmony of different ethnicities in Iran. And I'm very proud of my Persian background, my Turkish background, my Arab background, and first and foremost, I'm a Muslim, right? And I'm also proud of the Al-Sunnah's tradition and history in Iran and in the Persian culture sphere. And we're going to speak about this. How did Islam spread in the Indo-Pak subcontinent? How did Islam spread to Central Asia? There was many through the Persian Sunni Dawah, actually. And it's so much you can speak about that. But I will wait for now, because we're going to go to each of these topics step by step. And I'm sending my salams and greetings to also my family, and also to all of our brothers and sisters, and to the Iranian people, and to the non-Iranian people, to the people of the Persian culture sphere, and to the people all over the world, whether you're Turk or Arab or Kurd or Malay or Indonesian or West African. Bismillah. Welcome.
Thank you, Ustaz Jamaluddin. Our esteemed speaker today. We should focus on the discussion. Today is a very interesting person with wide experience, and he'll be able to explain to us the rich history and contribution of the Ahli Sunnah community from Iran. He's already explained quite a bit. If I may ask you, Sheikh,
Yes.
on the present demographics,
Mr. Jamaluddin, I think your microphone has some. Let's see if we. Yeah, that's
the
better.
present demographics, the Sunni Muslims in Iran and where they're located.
Yeah.
Maybe just to give an indication of, and what do they do economically, socio-economically, And is there some famous scholars from among them?
So, Bismillah. First and foremost, I'm not a sheikh. I'm just a talib. Taliban means it's a multiple. It's a plural for seekers of knowledge. So essentially, students of knowledge. What they do today economically, that's not something that I'm that knowledgeable. But I can speak about the demographics from like geographical location. So many of the Sunnis of Iran are located like in the not in the central parts of Iran, rather in the outskirts. So the Kurds are Sunnis and they're Shafis. And the Ahwazis, which is on the border to Iraq, they are, I think, majority are also Shafis. And then you have the Baluchis, which is in the border of Pakistan. Baluchistan is a region that has parts of it in Iran and parts of it in Pakistan. And they are Hanafis. And then the Bandar Abbas, which is the south, you also have a lot of Sunnis. And they are, I think, majority are Shafis, but there might be Hanafis there. And also, I think, to the border to Afghanistan, there are substantial amount of Sunnis as well. And then the Azaris are mixed Shia and Sunnis. So you have Sunni Azaris as well, or Azerbaijanis, and you have Shia Azerbaijanis. So these are probably the ethnical groups that are Sunnis per se, and of course within them you find Shias as well, and there are also other groups that are Sunnis, and so this is partially the geographical location of Sunnis inside and outside Iran. You have people like myself who maybe are not raised religiously, who when they reverted to Islam, and then some reverted to Ahl-Sunnah. So as I mentioned, my family is mixed. There is a terminology, I think in Bahrain they say sushi. People that are both Sunni and Shia in their family, they say sushi. And then you think about Japanese food, but that's a common term in Bahrain. They use sushi. But alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, there are substantial Ahl Sunnah in Iran today as well, and historically, as we're going to go through, many of the great ulama of Ahl Sunnah were Persians. They might not be Persians from Iran, because Iran is a new constructed, in a sense, the borders of modern Iran is quite new. All of our national borders in the world, and specifically in Middle East, North Africa, but I mean even here in Nusantara, are colonial constructions at the end of the day, and the same goes with Iraq and Iran and Syria and Lebanon, and I mean many parts of the Middle East was under the Ottoman Empire, right? Iran was never under the Ottoman Empire, and there is a reason for that, because there was a feud between two Turkish tribes, which was the Ottomans and the Safavids. The Safavids became Shias and the Ottomans were Sunni Hanafis. So the Ottomans never were able to have that influence in what is considered geographically as Iran today. So that this is a feud between two Turkish tribes, because the Safavids were Turks, by the way, the Turkish group, and the Turks actually are very diverse as well. I love the Turkish people. I mean, I love all people, by the way, but I am also Turk, and I'm very proud of my Persian background, my Turkish background, and my Arab background. I love the Arabs, right? And the Ottomans used to say, I need to say this, even though it might not be to the topic, but it is indirectly. The Ottomans used to say, the Ottomans used to be trilingual, okay? They used to master, of course, Arabic, of course, Turkish and Persian, Farsi, right? And they used to say that the language of religion is Arabic, all right? The language of administration is Turkish, and Ottoman Turkish is not modern Turkish, because they used to write in Arabic script. And the language of poetry and arts and culture is Farsi, Persian, right? So they were trilingual, and they were big custodians of the Persian culture, and they were also, very much custodians of the traditions within Tasawwuf. I mean, Rumi Rahimullah was Persian, for instance, one of the great, masters of poetry from our Tasawwuf tradition. He was a Hanafi scholar. People tend to forget that Rumi was Hanafi, and he was a Qadi, and he was a Tasawwuf scholar, right? So he was born So when we speak about Iran today, it's a colonial construct. There are borders, as many, but historically, the Persianate culture sphere is Iraq, definitely parts of Iraq. Baghdad is a Persian name. The name of Baghdad, the capital of the beautiful country of Iraq, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of our beloved brothers in Iraq. Iraq is the center of civilization, subhanAllah. And in the Persianate culture sphere, we saw Baghdad as the center of knowledge. Baghdad is a Persian. Bagh means in Persian and Farsi, garden. Yeah. And I don't know exactly what Dad means. I think, and I might be wrong, so I need to research this. I already say I might be wrong, that Baghdad means the garden that gives. Because Dad means to give. But Allahu Alam, I think I heard it somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. Nevertheless, Baghdad during, and you know, the Abbasid Caliphate was the center of thought, center of science, center of civilization, arts, etc. Right? And many of the leading scholars in Bayt al-Hikmah, the house of wisdom that Harun established, right, were Persians. So the Persianate culture sphere started, you can say, is parts of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Central Asia, Dagestan, Chechnya, all these Stan countries in what we call today Russia or Central Asia or Caucasus. Actually, many of them, Islam came through the Persianate culture sphere, right? And many of the Persian Sunni scholars came from Uzbekistan. Like, for instance, Ibn Sina is Persian, born in Uzbekistan. Or Imam Bukhari, the great hadith scholar, one of the five, compilation of the, hadith literature for us as Ahl-Sunnah, the Bukhari's work, Imam Bukhari, Bukhara, city in Uzbekistan. Even if you look at the Tasawwuf tradition and the Turuq, the Tariqah, the Naqshbandiya, Imam Naqshbandi from Uzbekistan, Persian. Abdul Qadir Jilani, from the founder of the Qadiri Tariqah, from Gilan, a region in Iran, Persian. And the list goes on. I can give you a lot of list of the hadith scholars. For instance, besides Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Persian, from Iran. Ibn Majah, from my father's city, Qazwin, Iran, Al-Qazwini, one of the great scholars in tafsir, from Qazwin, Iran. And Fakhruddin al-Razi. And there are several Fakhruddin Razis, but Fakhruddin Razi, the tafsir scholar, and then we have Fakhruddin Razi, as you know, who was into medicine and into sciences, and also we derive a lot of knowledge in Islamic psychology from Fakhruddin al-Razi, who established the first psychiatric ward in the world in Baghdad. He was Persian. Many of those who have al-Razi as the surname are from Tehran. Tehran's name was also associated with Ray, which was a smaller entity, smaller city, as I understand. Allah alam. Please correct me for those who are even more knowledgeable than me. So many of those who have Al-Razi as their surname came from Ray, which is in Tehran, right? And the list goes on. Of course, everybody know Hujjatul Islam, Imam Ghazali, Persian from Tus, northeast Iran, region of Khorasan. Naishapur, which in Arabic, you see, the beautiful language of Arabic doesn't have P, Pa, right? Persian and Malay has Pa, or Urdu, right? So Naishabur, they say in Arabic, we say Naishapur. That's why in Persian, original Persian, we didn't say Farsi, we say Parsi. Parsi, actually. It's quite interesting. With Islam coming and Arabic being the language of Deen, it became Farsi, right? So Naishapur was the center of knowledge. And Khorasan was also part of the Persian culture sphere, where many of the great scholars came from Khorasan, right? So Khorasan, today you find the Khorasan region, it's Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, all that region, Pakistan, that region is Khorasan, right? And Khorasan, why Khorasan has contributed substantially to Islamic thought is because it was a melting pot of different civilization meeting, because the Silk Road went through Khorasan. So the way that we today see like a lot of cultures meeting in Istanbul, or even in the West now, you have like, melting pots, let's say in New York or in London, that was the center back then. So a lot of ideas and thoughts were mixed there while people were doing tijara, merchants met. And a lot of great scholars could have access to knowledge, right? The same with Baghdad. Access to knowledge, because Baghdad was the center of the caliphate, right? What united the caliphates, like the Abbasids, for instance, was the Arabic language, right? Because you had one language that everybody understood. There's a way that English has become that in modernity. Arabic was back then. And inshallah, may Allah allow Arabic to become the lingua franca of the Muslims once more. Persia was very important as well. Very important language. As I mentioned what the Ottomans said, the Ottomans loved Persian. Loved Persian. That's why I always say Ottomans preserved the Persian tradition, and specifically the Al-Sunnah's tradition of the Persian and culture sphere was preserved by the Ottomans. The Ottomans loved to preserve culture, whether it was Persian or Arabic or whatever. They were great custodians of preserving. That's why we admire the Ottomans, right? So essentially the Persian and culture sphere from Baghdad to Hindustan, even Malaysia, you can. So I discussed with brother Faisal from Abib, and we had a beautiful conversation just recently about which words in Malay and Bahasa that are Farsi. We know obviously there's a lot of Arabic words, right? And then we came to a conclusion that grapes, for instance, in Malay is angur. Angur is Persian, for instance. And then just recently, I met one of my beloved brothers, Ustad Ridwan. He is a grappler from the organization Pahlavan, which are connected to Mukaba. Shout out to my brother Aman and brother Zain from Mukaba. They're doing an amazing job there. And ISIP organization, the International Students of Islamic Psychology. We had our venue here with Professor Dareen and myself at Mukaba. Nevertheless, his organization's name is Pahlavan. Pahlavan means warrior in Malay, and it's a Persian word. It means also warrior in Persian, right? In Farsi, right? So it's, sorry? Pandar. Bandar. Bandar means harbor. Bandar means harbor or town. That's also Persian. So, and listen, Islam is eclectic. I'm not a nationalist. We're just speaking about Al-Sunnah of Iran today, that's why. I love Turks, Arabs, Malays, whatever. But I'm proud of my culture. You're allowed to be proud of your culture as a Muslim. Proud of culture is different than thinking that you're better than others. When you think you're better than others, then you become a racist. But as long as you're proud without thinking, I'm proud and I'm as good as you, and I'm as flawed as you, that's healthy pride. That's sharaf. That's honor, right? Nevertheless, so Persian culture sphere is wide. So we tend to sometimes think that Islam is something Arabic. All right? And shout out to all my beloved Arab brothers and sisters. We love the Arabs. But I think all of our beloved Arab brothers and sisters will agree that Islamic is not Arabic. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Arab. Many of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Arab, right?
Salman al-Farsi.
Yeah, we're going to go to Salman. He was not Arab, he was Fars. But, and the revelation and wahi came in Arabic. Arabic is by far the most beautiful language of all languages, and this is something we all accept as Muslims. And also, we know that the language of science and Islam is Arabic. All this is true. But beyond that, Islam is universal. It's for all mankind. And since the days of Sahaba until now, that has been represented in the dawah, in the sciences, and the development. So for instance, many of the scholars of our deen that were Persians, in modernity, they say Arab. So if you study Orientalistic books, and the Orientalists are very problematic. In many ways, why? Because they want to reduce Islam to something nationalistic, because the agenda of colonization was to introduce Western ideologies to the Muslim and the oppressed psyche, one of them being nationalism, which is a disease. I only accept nationalism right now for Palestine because they need their nation. May Allah free Palestine. And I do accept patriotism. I think that's beautiful. And if that is connected to nationalism, then that is beautiful. But I believe that nationalism is one of the core issues in why we have so many fitna in our world today. And why Muslims are not united is, I believe, because of nationalism. Because we are putting, artificial borders which didn't exist when we had the time of Khilafah. So if Ibn Battuta, the great Moroccan traveler, would travel today, he will not be able to write a diary. It will be, I didn't get visa when I wanted to go to Algeria, and then I was neglected the visa when I wanted to go to Masr and Egypt. And he will probably never be able to write this beautiful diary of his. So nationalism is something that exists. It's a European Western ideology. I do believe that some interpretation of nationalism in the Muslim world today is healthy and sound and good. But generally, I am not a big fan of it because it takes away the concept of ummah. The ummah never had national borders. The ummah, when the Mughals attacked Afghanistan, Rumi fled to Konya. Why? Konya was the capital of the Seljuk Empire, which was a Turkish empire, right? Seljuk was a Turkish tribe, and it was the most western part of the Muslim world. Imagine today he will not be able to even go through Iran and Iraq and Syria and then, from there maybe Palestine and then come to Turkey, right? So nationalism has disconnected us from our tradition, because now instead we're looking at the tradition of the nation and the nation state, and then we create the nation identity above the Islamic identity. But in Islamic thought is the opposite. You start with the Islamic identity and then you bring in the nation identity, because we're not against nations. We're not against tribes. We're actually positive towards tribalism. The Western say tribalism is bad. No, we like tribalism, healthy one. Allah created us in many nations and tribes. That's beautiful. That's why we love urf, culture. We love nations and tribes. And in that, okay, call it nationalism. That's fine. Patriotism, that's beautiful. Honor. But as long as it's congruent with Islam and Quran and Sunnah. But if it's a nationalism or a urfism, or a culturalism that is not congruent with Islam and Quran and Sunnah, then it's nothing to keep. That's why Islam first, and then nation or tribes, and then nationalism and tribalism and culturalism will be beautiful. So yes, I am for nationalism and culturalism and tribalism if it's congruent with Islam and Islam comes first. So why? Because then diversity comes. Unity in Tawheed, unity in Quran and Sunnah, unity in Islam, diversity, multiplexity, which Dr. Shentuk says, one of my teachers, and output. That's why Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah, the beautiful Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah, we have 4 madhab, right? We have Hanafi. By the way, Abu Hanifa was Persian. Did you guys know that? And then you have Shafi. Imam Shafi was Palestinian from Gaza. So you guys in Nusantara that are Shafis, you're connected to Palestine through your madhab. And then Maliki, and then Hanbali. And Abdul Qadir Jilani, the great Tasawwuf scholar, was a Hanbali, by the way. So this is the beauty of multiplexity when it's rooted in a common identity. And the common identity of all Muslims were Islam, right? And then different ethnicity came, which is beautiful. Diversity in how we look. Look, our Ustad Jamaluddin has a batik. I have a shalwar. This is the Pakistani style, which I also see it as the Persianate attire. The Persianate Sunni attire might be this, right? And this is typical Malay, beautiful Islamic attire, which is an integration of traditional patterns of Nusantara, which is very beautiful, right? So culture is good, nation is good, congruent. And that's why we need to criticize the Orientalistic viewpoint of reducing Islam to something nationalistic or something ethnical. Islam is only Arabic or Turkish, right? We know, no, Islam is Malay, Islam is Nigerian, etc., Bosnian, right? Swedish, right? So a lot of the scholars, if you read the Orientalistic books, they say Ghazali, Arab philosopher, or Ibn Sina, Arab chemist, right? But they were not Arabs. They were Muslims. So say Muslim, and then ethnicity could be different, but the common identity is Muslims. So just to finalize this part of what I'm saying, the Prophet ﷺ, Arab, most beautiful language, Arabic, language of deen, Arabic, but Islam and its dawah was spread in different languages by different tribes and different people, whether we're Persians, Turks, or Malays, etc. And we're proud of this diversity. Allahu Alam. And why I mention this, Ustad Jamaluddin, is because the Persian culture spheres beyond Iran as a national entity today, our borders. It was part of Iraq until Hindustan. Yeah, until Hindustan.
Amazing. Thank you, Ustad Jamaluddin. I is amazed. I'm amazed on the number of scholars coming from the.
I don't know if your microphone is working. Oh, it's working. Okay, just
coming from the scholars from the Persian world, and many of us don't know most of them. Yeah, I don't think.
Or we know and we don't connect them to Iran, because today we think that Iran is only Shia. But Iran has both Shia and Sunnis, you know. So when the Ahl-Sunnah reflect upon Iran, we think Iran is only Sunni, is Shia, right? So we think that all the Hadith scholars, there must be something else than Persians, because we connect Persian to Iran, but Persian is ethnicity, obviously, and there are Sunnis today. But historically, also many of the great ulama of Ahl-Sunnah were Persians.
We know actually Salman Al-Farsi.
Salman Al-Farsi.
About him,
Salman Al-Farsi was very beloved of the Prophet.
He was considered one of the Ahlul Bayt.
Yeah, the Prophet said that he's part of my home, part of my family, and he was the first Persian Muslim. And he's a unity figure for, if we want to speak about harmony between religions and also between different groups within Islam, a uniting figure of the Sunnis and the Shias is Salman Al-Farsi, because we both love him, right? And Salman Al-Farsi, obviously from his name was Persian, and he was a seeker of knowledge, He always questioned, the dualistic religions and the non-Tawhidi religions that were prevalent in Middle East or in Sham or in Persia. And actually, there's quite an interesting topic. I think my teachers are more equipped to speak about it. But I learned from one of my teachers, Dr. Samir, that the Zoroastrian religion of what the Prophet ﷺ speaks about, like the Majusis, was a bid'ah of the true teachings of Zarathustra, Zoroastrius, which was the founder of the Zoroastrian religion. That they were actually Tawhidi, but then the followers, like what happened to Judaism and Christianity and other beliefs, started to do shirk, connecting to, for instance, worshiping the fire. That was not the case with the teachings of Zarathustra, and they never worshipped the fire. The fire was a symbol for something else. Allah alam, this is not part of my expertise, but as a person who loves knowledge, why I'm mentioning this is because Salman Al-Farsi came, I think his father was a Zoroastrian priest or something. He was questioning, some of the practices, and then I think he met some Christians and some Jews, and he was questioning, the Trinity, and, that one people are the only chosen people, and then he heard stories of, there might come a prophet in Hejaz, right? And he was actually captured, I think, and he became a slave, and he was then brought to Hejaz, and the rest is history. We know that then he was freed, and he became one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. He helped the Prophet, like for instance, the whole aspect of digging graves as a way to protect the city from, conquerors. He gave this, experience and shared it with the Prophet ﷺ. So he got that from his knowledge of how the Persians used to dig water graves so that people cannot enter the city, right? So Salman Al-Farsi is the first Persian Muslim. He's very important for us as Ahl-Sunnah. He is Ahl al-Bayt. We tend to sometimes think that Ahl al-Bayt is something that the Ahl-Sunnah doesn't, love or, respect or appreciate. But that's not true. Actually, in the Ahl-Sunnah tradition, if we look at the Ottomans as an example, they always wanted the blessings of Ahl-Sunnah when they took different, Ahl-Bayt, when they took different decisions. Or when a new sultan was inaugurated, they actually want the blessings from Ahl al-Bayt as well. So Ahl al-Bayt is very important for Ahl al-Sunnah. But obviously, we have a different approach to Ahl al-Bayt compared to our Shia brothers and sisters. And it's okay to have adab al-ikhtilaf. You know, we are for differences of opinion. So I'm not going to go into that. I want to speak about harmony and unity and actually focus on speaking about the history of Ahl al-Sunnah, which is a history that a lot of people do not know. Even Iranians and Persians do not know. Actually, if you ask a general Persian or Iranian today, they don't know about the history of Ahl Sunnah at all. And the same goes to Muslims all around the world and non-Muslims, obviously. So Ahl al-Bayt, Salman al-Farsi was not biologically from the lineage, but he was in a sense adopted by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So obviously as Ahl Sunnah we love the Ahl al-Bayt. I just need to mention something about the Ottomans that I really admire as well. If you go to the Ottoman masajids, you will always see the name of the Khalifa Rashidun as calligraphy. You see the name of our beloved Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, our beloved Sayyidina Omar radiallahu anhu, and our beloved Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, and our beloved Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and then Hassan and Hussein. Right? That's the love for the Ahl al-Bayt that the Ottomans had. And the Ottomans were Ahl al-Sunnah wa Jama'ah. They were Hanafis, but they respected all madhabs. Right? So in our tradition as Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we also love the Ahl al-Bayt, even though we have a different approach, as I mentioned. So Salman al-Farsi, a non-Arab as part of Ahl al-Bayt, and adopted and not, lineage-wise, blood-wise connected, which also gives us a spiritual connection to Ahl al-Bayt, right? So Salman al-Farsi is very important. All the Sahaba, all the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, all the companions of the companions and the companions of the companions of the companions. So the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een and also the Salaf, very important for Ahl Sunnah. And Salman al-Farsi was very beloved by all the Sahaba. All the Sahaba really loved him. They saw him as a source of knowledge, as a person who understood other faiths, and that's why he understood the superiority of Islam as the final message from Allah, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, as the final messenger and the seal of all Anbiya and the Prophets. We can see Salman al-Farsi affirming that because he had deep knowledge in other traditions and religious traditions like Zoroastrianism, Judaism, and Christianity as well.
Thank you. Ustad, you have very clearly enumerated contribution of the Muslims from the 7th century to the 15th century when it was the dominant faith in Iran.
Yeah, in Iran, exactly.
And this period contributed greatly to the Islamic Golden Age.
Yes.
So do you want to add in any further contributions? I mean, what you have mentioned is already immense. And this is something that we are not too aware of even among the Muslim general public. If you look at history that we learn, comes from the West.
Yes.
So you have the Greek history, and then you have
Roman
directly
history.
the Romans, the Greek history, and then directly it goes to
Renaissance.
Renaissance.
Yeah.
There's a missing 800 to 1,000
Yeah,
years.
yeah, exactly.
So what do you think about this missing link?
I think that you're spot on, my beloved Ustad Jamaluddin. We love each other. We're twins. We should do a series, double Jamaluddin. By the way, Jamaluddin al-Afghani, he was actually not Afghani, he was Irani. Yeah, I read Muhammad Abdu's biography, and it was said that he was Persian as well. It was quite interesting. I thought he was Afghani. Nevertheless, shout out to all my Afghani brothers and sisters. I love Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a beautiful country. Afghanistan is also Persianate culture, and many Dari, which is one of the official languages of Afghanistan, together with Pashto and Tajiki, is Persian. Farsi, Dari. Tajiki is Persian, by the way. So Persian, you even call it, you either call it Farsi or Dari or Tajiki. So Tajikistan, they speak Farsi. All right. yes, the colonizers, they don't want to acknowledge Islamic history, obviously, because Islam was always a threat to the colonizers. Even after 600-700 years of colonization, they didn't take away Islam from our hearts. Can you imagine? Look at the African Americans. May Allah bless all the African Americans. Beautiful people, right? They're coming back to Islam because it was innate in their fitrah. Because 30 to 40% of the West Africans who were enslaved by the Europeans and brought to the Americas, they were Muslims. And after 500 years, they're back. Why? Because Allah decided that, and because it's innate. So they can do whatever they want. The colonizers, they will never take away Islam from our hearts. And this is something they knew from the age of the Crusades, right? Now, obviously we don't dislike West. I love the West. We as Muslims are not against the West. We want to live in harmony with West. We're against the hegemony of the West. We're not against West. Some of the greatest scholars of our tradition comes from West. Modern scholars like Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murad, who I had the honor to study with, or Dr. Omar Farouk, which is one of my teachers, or Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, or Dr. Omar Suleiman. And myself, I'm not a sheikh, by the way. I'm just a seeker of knowledge, but I am Western as well. I love the West. We love the West. We hate hegemony, domination. We want harmony, wasatiyah, Malay contribution. I am Malay, by the way, because Malay is wasatiyah. I love it. This is what Professor Osman Bakr has taught me, my beloved teacher, and I consider him to be my father. So the thing is that with regards to the history, there is a saying history is written by the winners. And because the colonizers, unfortunately, were the ones who at least physically won, not spiritually, because we see now that West is falling because secularism is not the solution for people's needs. So people in West are gravitating to Islam. You know how many Western people are reverting or converting to Islam? Thanks to the role modelship of the Philistines. May Allah free Palestine. May Allah free Gaza, the city and the country, the part of Imam Shafi, Gaza. So, it's because they see the sumud and the resilience of the Muslims, and in particular our leaders, the Palestinians. The Palestinians are the leaders of the Ummah. They are our leaders, They are our leaders. So essentially, the West has lost. And we won without any fight. Because Islam, and this takes me to Al-Sunnah, and this takes me to Islam, and this takes me also to this, from the 7th century to the 15th century. Islam was not spread with swords like what the Orientalists say and the nationalists say. Islam was spread through the heart. And this is exactly Nusantara culture, right? With the Wali Sonko, like the 9 saints of Nusantara. Did they come with swords? No. They came with knowledge, and they came with acceptance, and they came with integration. Hence wasatiyah. They listen to the people of Nusantara. Okay, they have this tradition. Let us introduce Islam in a way that is congruent with their culture, that is congruent with their tradition. Let's not neglect their tradition. Let's, in a sense, like Sayyid Naqib al-Atta says, Islamicize it, filter it, right? This is beautiful. Look at your beautiful clothes, Ustad Jamaluddin. How come you're so beautiful? Because you have this Nusantara, beautiful clothes. How come am I beautiful, Ustad Jamaluddin? They say, Alhamdulillah. I don't want to speak about myself, but I'm a narcissist. I am not. So this is the Pakistani, Persian, Afghani, Sunni style, right? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So this is the beauty of Islam. And this beauty was in particularly focused during the 7th to the 15th century. Because back then, before modernity came, colonization came, and with that hegemony came, dogmaticism came, we had freedom of thought according to Quran and Sunnah. We had cultural curiosity. I'm writing a paper, so if you want we can do this. I'm speaking on cultural curiosity, how to revive it in Islamic thought. So we were curious because we were grounded. We were rooted in our Quran and Sunnah, in our tradition as Muslims. So we were flexible in studying other traditions, both within Islam and outside Islam. People that are not grounded or rooted, they are often rootless becomes clueless, which doesn't make you bootless. I try to rap. So the thing is, people when they are rootless, they become reactionary. What does it mean to be reactionary, dear beloved brothers and sisters? Is that you become extreme. And there are two extreme ends of the spectrum of reactionism. One is neglecting everything. We are just the pure. We are Puritarians. Everything is pure. Forget about 1,000 years of contributions in Islamic thought that is cumulative. We go directly to the source and we know best. We are the one who knows the best. People that are 1,000 years away of those who actually organize our madahib's work. That is quite honestly a modern view. And I'm not criticizing people that have that, because there is a legitimate criticism towards certain aspect of things that comes from these type of viewpoints that could be important to listen to. So when I speak about extreme points, I never say that everybody who has certain position that is close to extreme points are wrong. There could be some truth in everything, right? But essentially, to have the viewpoint that we should neglect 1,000 years of accumulative process of knowledge is a reactionary extreme point. On the other end, you have take everything you want, just internalize it, just assimilate it. That is tokenism. That is something that will, cause innovations that are not good, because you have good innovations and bad innovations. Like Imam Shafi says, bidah hasana. That's good innovation. So Taraweeh is a good innovation. That's Sayyidina Omar organized. It was not the way the Prophet ﷺ did, but it's a good innovation, bidah hasana. But then you have wrong, bad innovation, and that comes with tokenism. Just assimilate from other cultures. Don't think about sunnah. You don't need to follow everything in the Quran. Sharia is not important. We can be secular and still be Muslim. I am a secular Muslim. What secular Muslim? There is no secular Muslim. Either you're Muslim or you're not Muslim. What is secular Muslim? That is actually very dangerous, because that will make Islam into an ethnicity. We don't want, look at the Jewish history. Actually, the religious Jews are very critical over the secularization of Judaism. We met in IAUM last week, anti-Zionist rabbi in this conference with Professor Bakr. He was amazing. He was so angry towards Zionism, because Zionism is a secular ideology. He said, this is not Judaism. Imagine we as Al-Sunnah, if ISIS takes over the whole Islamic tradition, we will get frustrated. Zionism is the ISIS of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people are great people, But Zionism is not aligned with Judaism, right? The same thing as ISIS is not aligned with Islamic values. So, why I'm saying this is because reaction makes something bad. Either you neglect 1,000 years of our history, or you just internalize everything without mindfully look. That's blindfold, and that's blind taqleed, which is not good. In the middle is what the people from the 7th to the 15th century represented. They were grounded in Quran and Sunnah, and that allowed them to be curious both within the tradition and outside the tradition. So Imam Ghazali was an expert of Greek thought, and he took things that was applicable to Quran and Sunnah, and he rejected the other things. The same went with many of the scholars of that tradition, right? And we know that Bayt al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, was a place where all the scholars translated the works of the Greeks and the Persians and the Chinese and the Indians from their languages to Arabic, so that people had access. This is beautiful. This is Islamic. And this is connected to the hadith where the Prophet, peace be upon him, says that the wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever he or she finds it, he or she is most entitled to use it, right? But you use it mindfully, exactly as Sayyid Naqib al-Attas has taught us when it comes to Islamization of knowledge. So in this period, you didn't have colonization of the minds, because with colonization came nationalism and secularism and then liberalism and all these isms, which is imposed on you. They say they're open to diversity, but they're not, because it's diversity according to their paradigm, according to a paradigm that is very nafsani and anthropocentric. It's based upon human nafs, not Allah. Our Tawheed, our paradigm is based upon something higher than us. Their paradigm is based upon something that is nafs related, self-related, and the self can be right and the self can be wrong. We shouldn't base our knowledge upon the self. That's why Imam Ghazali, the Persian tasawwuf scholar from the Ahli-Sunnah, Imam Ghazali was Shafi'i, by the way. That's why Imam Ghazali said, we believe in what? Empirical research in all sciences except the metaphysical sciences. There we subdue to wahi. So you put and break your nafs by just being a believer. We don't need empirical research to speak about Quran or Sunnah. We believe it. Point simple, right? So that's why this was the golden era. Now, to use it Islamic golden era, Ustad Jamaluddin, I love you for the sake of Allah. but it is a little bit a colonial word, because Islamic golden era never ended. The Ottomans were also part of the Islamic golden era, right? And actually Islam came to Nusantara after, or in the beginning, or in the end of the Islamic golden era, if we define it from the 7th to the 15th, right? So Islamic golden era never ended, but colonization didn't allow us to be connected, to exchange thoughts, because before colonization we had one language that united us in science, which was Arabic, and we could use science from Morocco to Bilad al-Hindustan, right? But with colonization we were break down into nation state, we couldn't exchange thoughts as well, so it was more difficult to do so-called sciences. And with that came hegemonical views of one nation state being more superior than the other, so we don't take from each other. And then that is the European or the secular model. Of course we love the Europeans, we love the Westerners, but we don't like the hegemony.
SubhanAllah. Thank you. Fantastic, highly motivated, very eloquent explanation
Allah.
of things. We have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
And I will ready the audience if you want to ask one or two questions. Yeah, one or Dr. Saksari and the rest. To answer, ask some questions. One thing surprising, a secret that I would want to reveal is that this nice, good man, very innocent, knowledgeable Ustad, was a former rapper, a famous rapper in Sweden. And Ustad Jamaluddin has agreed, towards the end of the session today, he will give a short rap. That's fantastic. I heard he's rapping on the way from Amritsar to Dharamsala, India, to meet Dalai Lama. He was rapping in the car. It was fantastic. So, inshallah, before we go to the questions on the floor, Ustaz, just a very quick,
Yes.
probably revelation of your plans for your book. Can you share that with us?
Of course. First and foremost, I want to thank Ustad Jamaluddin and ACCIN and IKRAM for allowing me to be here. I hope we can work together and collaborate. I love Malaysia. I love Wasatiyah. I want harmony. Even when we speak about Al-Sunnah, I'm not against Shia at all. I want harmony. You know, we want harmony. And right now, with the whole situation in Palestine, we need to be united as Muslims, right? And also, we want harmony with the Christians and the Jews and all the other, you know, and then we will do our da'wah accordingly. And then we invite people to come and join us with the heart. So I want to say that for us to speak about Ahl-Sunnah Sister Iran is not to neglect Mullah Sadr, who was a great scholar who contributed, who was a Shia. Or Ali Shariati is an amazing sociologist who was a Shia. I think all Ahl-Sunnah love Ali Shariati. He was a great scholar, great scholar. He was one of the most decolonial scholars we can find. And he did also bring in Islam into the decolonial thought. Actually, he read the books of Frantz Fanon. I'm sure you know Frantz Fanon. He was the decolonial psychiatrist, one of my favorites of the secular sources that I study. Obviously, I don't agree with him when it comes to the solution. The solution for him was not a Tawhidi solution. It was a secular solution. And actually, Ali Shariati told him in a letter, and this letter you can find online, Frantz Fanon, I appreciate everything you write, because Frantz Fanon was part of the anti-colonial resistance against the French in Algeria. The French were brutal in Algeria. Brutal. I could say the Algerian suffering was one of the worst in human history. The French brutalization of Algeria is seen today with the Islamophobic tendencies of how they're treating the Muslims in France today. You know, the French, they're, now banning the, hijab, and it's just such arrogance. Of course, there are many beautiful French. I always differentiate the politics with people. French people are beautiful. I'm speaking about politics. So, why I'm saying this is because there are great scholars like Seyed Hossein Nasr, who actually Seyed Hossein Nasr never calls them a Shia or Sunni, but so these are great gems for the Ummah. Seyed Hossein Nasr and Ali Shariati and stuff. And we don't need to agree with everything with them, but we will benefit. And they are much more knowledgeable than what I am, honestly, when my time is say anything. Well, with that said, I'm very proud of being Ahl Sunnah. And I want people to know that Ahl Sunnah is a natural part of Iran and the Persian culture sphere. Every time I go somewhere, I need to say I'm the Ahl Sunnah of Iran, because people think by automatic, if you're Iranian, you're Shia. And that's why I'm emphasizing on this book. It's not to create any fitna. I'm not for fitna at all. I want harmony. Harmony with other faiths and harmony within Islam with our, fellow Shia brothers and sisters, or fellow, in Oman they have a third branch of Islam, which is Ibadi. We want, and according to the Amman Accord, which is the accord written 15 years ago in Amman, which defines what Islam is, in that is Sunni. Within Sunni, you have the four madahib, you have Tasawwuf and also Salafi, and you have, or Sufism, and then you have the Aqidah of Ashari, Maturidi, and Athari, and then you have from the Shias, and I'm not knowledgeable of Shia Islam, but you have the Jafari and the Zaydis, if I'm not mistaken, and then you have the Ibadi. This is Islam, and we adhere to the Amman Accord. And all the Malaysian muftis adhere to the Amman Accord, because I read all the countries, all the muftis, and I know Malaysia has written under it. Saudi has written under it. Obviously, Iran has written under it, and all Turkey, etc. So we put that aside so that people know the intention here is not anything else than just to speak about my tradition as a Sunni, and that Iran has a rich tradition of history, both in modern era and in historical. And I mentioned already now, the book will be both encyclopedic, it will be also research-based. I have spoken with many of my teachers who have given me a lot of great resources. For instance, me and Dr. Omar, one of my amazing teachers, has given me a lot of great resources. We're going to speak pre-Safavid time and post-Safavid time. Pre-Safavid time, majority of the Persian and culture sphere, including Iran, were Sunnis. Post-Safavid time, it switched. So we're going to speak about that. We're going to speak how come this change happened. And we're going to speak about modern era. And we're going to speak about conclusion and how we can bring harmony. Harmony comes from recognition, by the way. You can never have harmony without recognition. So one way for us is to have harmony with everyone is to recognize ourselves. How are we going to build harmony with fellow, let's say, Buddhist brothers and sisters if we don't know our own Islamic history? Because if harmony is created without being rooted in your tradition, in your history, then it becomes syncretism. Syncretism leads to perennialism, which leads to new religions and new age spirituality, right? New age spirituality is a spirituality without a sanad, without a root, without a tradition, where you just pick from every religion. Syncretism is very problematic. That's why I believe in interfaith dialogue, inter and intra. Right? Intra is within and inter without. But in order to have a healthy inter or intra-faith dialogue, you need to be rooted in your tradition, or else it becomes syncretism. I am proud of being part of the Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah. I am proud of a tradition of Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah. Actually, Habib Omar from Hadramaut, the great leader of the Hadramautis, and many of them spread through Tijara Islam to Nusantara as well, right? He says the four madahib of Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah, the Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, Hanafi, is a blessing for the Sunnah, for the Muslims, because it's four way towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. This is the beauty of our tradition. This is the beauty of Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah. And I am proud of that. I am proud of that. I'm proud of what we have achieved. And I want harmony, but in order to have harmony, I need to know my history. And people need to know that the history of Ahl Sunnah is not only something that came from one ethnical group, for instance, the Arabs or the Turks, but also from the Persians and from many other groups like the Malays and the people of Nusantara, the people of India and Pakistan and Nigeria and Mali, etc. And at the same time, we need to understand that Islam's unity comes from Quran, Sunnah, and being a Muslim. And then Arabic is important language. And as the Ottoman said, trilingual. I would add Urdu, important language for Islam. I would add English today. We need to know Malay, Bahasa, all these languages, very important, right? So the objective of the book, Ustad Jamaluddin, great audience and brothers and sisters, is to root ourselves in a history that has been forgotten due to different geopolitical situation, genocides, colonization, epistemicide, because the epistemicide that happened in Spain by eradicating the history of the Moors and the Islam in Spain has happened also with the Ahl Sunnah tradition, for instance, in the Persian culture sphere in Iran, but also due to colonization, from the European powers we have also seen today that a lot of our scholars of our past, whether they're Sunnis or even Shias, are taken out of the framework of Islam. Right? So when people speak about Ali Shariati, they don't speak about him as a Muslim, they speak about him as a sociologist, but he was a Muslim, he got inspiration from Islam. Or when they speak about Rumi Rahimullah, they don't speak about him as a Hanafi Qadi who believed in Sharia, who was a part of the Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or Shams Tabrizi, who was a Shafi. They speak about them as these Sufi, goofy hippies who didn't believe in Sharia and they just loved for the sake of love. And then the LGBTQ and the sexualization of Rumi and all these people comes into place. They were never homosexual, they were never liberals, they believed in Sharia, and then from Sharia you can get tariqat and haqiqat and then marifat, which is knowledge of God. So by us rooting ourselves, we can then build interfaith and intra-faith dialogue where we can learn from each other and differences and have adab al-ikhtilaf, which is to respect differences of opinions. And I'm very open to discuss this, both with my fellow Muslims all over the world and also people from the Shia faith in Iran or outside Iran. I'm very open. I have a lot to learn and I hope that they want to learn and we can learn. But for sure, Iran has a rich Ahl-Sunnah tradition and we want to speak about it because the common person doesn't know this 1,000 year of history. They know today and they know before Islam came to Iran, but because of nationalism, please give me a couple of minutes more because I need to say this. Why I'm critical of Persian nationalism or Arab nationalism or Turkish nationalism or whatever nationalism is because nationalism is trying to change the framework. So the Persian nationalists, and I'm very critique, and this is something where Muslims have something in common. Whether which part, which tribe or whatever we call sect that we adhere to, I can say like this: the Persian nationalists got their ideologies indirectly supported by the European colonial powers. Okay, the European colonial powers always had an issue with Islam. That's why they supported different movements in India or in Middle East that could fractionize the Muslims. And I don't want to mention the names because this is secondary. And what happens here is that we need to decolonize our mind to understand how colonization affected our mind. For instance, a lot of Persians today say, I'm not Arab, I'm Aryan. Okay? I actually say I'm Arab. I'm Arab and I'm proud of it. It's beautiful to be Arab. If you love the Prophet, he was an Arab. There's nothing wrong, right? No, we are Persian, we are better. We're better than the Arabs because there is an Arab phobia, I will be honest, amongst Persian people, amongst Iranian. I can speak about that because I'm Iranian. I'm allowed to speak about my people. I don't speak about other people, by the way. I'm entitled to speak about my people, right? So the Arab phobia is a new phenomenon. Imam Ghazali was Persian. He never had Arab phobia. I don't even see that Imam Ghazali speak about himself as a Persian. Back then, these identities was not the way that we see them today. If you look at Rumi, he doesn't speak about himself as a Persian. Imam Ghazali doesn't speak about himself as a Persian. Abdul Qadir Jilani or Ibn Miskawayh or Fakhruddin al-Razi or al-Ghazwini or al-Isfahani, all these great scholars of our tradition, they don't speak about themselves as Persian. But they spoke Persian. Imam Ghazali wrote the Kimyat al-Sadat, the alchemy of happiness, in Persian. And this is a summary of the Ihya Ulumuddin, who he wrote in Arabic, right? Rumi wrote both in Arabic and Persian, but the Masnavi was written in Persian. They say that the Masnavi is a tafsir of the Quran in Persian, right? So we know from our tradition that our scholars pre-colonial time didn't identify themselves with their ethnicity. They identified themselves with their religion. But then nationalism came and European feuded that. So they said, wait, the true Aryans are from Persia, from India. They're not the Arabs. The Arabs are Semites. You know that anti-Semitism from the beginning was anti-Arab and anti-Jew. But then it became just connected to anti-Arab, anti-Jew. But the Arabs are Semites. No, they're not like the Semites that are awful. They are Aryans. And then they created a divide amongst Persians and Kurds and Turks and Arabs, and nationalism feuded this. Whether it's Persian or Turkish, Arab or Hindu, whatever, nationalism fueled it. And that's why in Iran today, a lot of people don't know about Ahl-Sunnah's history because they think Ahl-Sunnah is something Arab. But Sibawayh, who organized the Arabic language, he was Persian. Sibawayh, Sib means apple in Persian. How come these people didn't think like that? They say that Islam came to Iran with the sword. How come in the first two centuries of our deen, so many Persians contributed to the development of Islam? How come one of the four madhahib of Ahl-Sunnah, Abu Hanifa, was Persian? Were they forced? This is all nationalistic view and also anti-Arab sentiments. And we as Irani, we need to think about that. And we need to decolonize our minds. We were not forced into Islam. I'm not saying that all Muslim leaders were good. There were leaders in all the, whether it's the Umayyads or the Abbasids or the Ottomans, that were, Firaun. They were. And we're not saying all the leaders were good. But generally, the Ottomans and, the Abbasid were amazing. And the Abbasid, actually, they had very much religious harmony with different, groups within the empire. They used the Persian to govern, different parts of the empire, of the Caliphate, of the Khilafah. For instance, the Wazirs, many of them were Persians, right? There were leaders in the Umayyads that were amazing, like Abdulaziz, he was an amazing leader, amazing, Caliph and Sultan. So I'm saying this is because Persian or Turkish or Arab or whatever nationalism, besides the Palestinian, we support the Palestinians right now, besides that, is not something that unites Muslim. And that's why I think due to nationalism, 1,000 years of Iranian history, 1,000 years of Ahl Sunnah's history, 1,000 years of Islamic history has been erased from the psyche of the Muslims, whether they're Persians or Iranians or non-Iranians. That's why a lot of people that are Malays or that are Indonesians or that are Arabs or Turks or that are from West Africa or whatever, from Nigeria, they get shocked when I say I'm Sunni from Iran, and they get shocked when I say Imam Bukhari was Persian. Ibn Majah was Persian, they get shocked when I say that Fakhruddin al-Razi was Persian, right? So we need to break nationalism, and I think part of that is why this 1,000 years has been forgotten, because either they say, from a Persian point of view, Ahl Sunnah just the Arabs. No, not at all. Islam is something Arabic, not at all. We are Aryans. No, not at all. Might be that some of us are Aryans, but it's not like something that we identify ourselves with only. We were first and foremost Muslims. Does it mean that we're against our pre-Islamic history? No. There were beautiful things in the Zoroastrian tradition, the way that there were beautiful things in the pre-Nusantara tradition, right? And we can Islamicize that, and that's what they did. A lot of our tradition in Iran is Islamicized version, of things that we used to do before Islam. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I believe in integration. I believe in wasatiyah. But in order to bring integration wasatiyah, you need to know your history. And,
Ustaz, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, but just to say, the book will be about this, Ustaz Jamaluddin.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I think what I can conclude simply, very simply, is that your message of love, respect,
Yes.
understanding, peace, harmony between the different religious adherents and also the different races.
Yes.
It's a message of humanity.
Of course.
It's a message of one ummah
One ummah.
and a message of love and respect. I think that is very important. I think we are, many of us, engulfed in the colonialist mentality.
Yes.
I'm an engineer. I'm not a philosopher. So we think differently.
No.
There's too much philosophy. We get headaches. Any engineers here? I'm an engineer.
Allahu Akbar.
The thinking process is a bit different, but I really enjoyed your presentation. It was actually a lesson for me to think more clearly and be focused on building, focus on respect, on love, humanity,
And love
working together.
and love and humanity is important, but we cannot get love without knowing who we are. I believe in harmony in the way that I need to know who I am, and then I can have harmony with Christian, Jews, or people from other parts of Islam. But I need to know myself. If I don't know myself, then how am I supposed to create harmony? Then I will become a token or reaction.
Absolutely.
So harmony with boundaries are beautiful, because we need boundaries.
We hope that this is the first session, and when your book comes up, we will probably proceed with a second session of
Yes.
the Al-Sunnah
parts of Al-Sunnah in Iran, which you have very rightfully linked with the rest of the Ummah and also humanity.
Muhammad Iqbal spoke, for instance, Muhammad Iqbal, the great, Pakistani scholar, wrote his poetry in Persian. That's one example. If you look at, for instance, in India, may Allah make it easy for the Muslims in India. This is also part of nationalism. The Hindu nationalism is such an oppressive thing. But traditionally, the Muslims and the Hindus had really good relationships in India because of nationalism once more. Nationalism affects the relationship between different parts of Islam, for instance, Sunnis and Shias, and it affects also interfaith dialogue. So in India, the Mughals who spread Islam to Hindustan, to Pakistan, to Bangladesh, they were Persianized in their culture. So they spoke Farsi. That's why in India, many of the cities' names have Farsi names. Many of the kings of the Mughals or the sultans, their names were Naveed or Humayun. These are not even Arab names, they're Persian names, right? And they were Al-Sunnah, they were Hanafis. The Ottomans followed Abu Hanifa, Persian, Hanafi. So there is so much connection, Persian. By the way, the Turkish also, I am Turk, so I can say Iran is part of the Turkish culture sphere. I am, and I'm proud of the Turkish culture sphere. Iran is part of the Arabic culture sphere, and I'm proud of the Arabic culture sphere. Turkey has been influenced by the Persians. Actually, the Turks, many of them learned Islam through the Persian connection. And the Persians they met were Ahl-Sunnah back then. You see? It's so beautiful.
So on behalf, I think we have passed our time, but
shall we take one or two questions, or is it time?
Questions? Any questions here? I think it's okay. Kamil, any questions here? No? I think it's okay.
Okay.
We will proceed with we will thank, I have to thank on behalf of ACCIN and our partner, Pertubuhan IKRAM Malaysia. Thank you very much, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, for your hosting of this wonderful event today. Inshallah, our discussion today is on our Facebooks, both ACCIN Facebook and IKRAM Facebook, and we'll be able to look at it, reflect on it, and analyze what has been said by our dear Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin. And may Allah consider our effort as an ibadah.
Ameen.
And with that, we will conclude with a short representation by Ustaz Seyed Jamaluddin for the audience, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right. Wa alaikum is secondary. The first is that you're Muslim, which is Tawheed. Without Tawheed, your identity is incomplete. And Tawheed is sweet like baklava. And we don't want any more drama. We want interfaith dialogue with people like Dalai Lama. But we need to know our boundaries. Because that is the steez. Because I'm a Muslim and in the end I believe in that. But I can have dialogue with others and that's that. But with boundaries, it doesn't become syncretism. It becomes something that is good for all human, added to humanism. But humanism from West is not a good, it's anthropocentric. Humanism from Islam is Adamiyya, which is God-centric. Allahu Akbar, that is a takbir. And I want to be a lion, a sheer. Sheer means lion. In my language, Farsi, Salman Farsi was a beautiful Sahaba and companion or rebellion. Give him the medallion. And Jamaluddin is the beauty of our religion. We don't believe in khurafat and superstitions. We are the ones who come from Vasatiya. I love Nusantara. It's good for my aqliya. Let's do some alamiya and learn our tradition again. My friend, hip-hop is also rooted in Islam through the African diaspora. And I know that you and I are love soldier, like Shamsa Tabrizi, Rumi Shams Tabrizi. They didn't speak English, they speak Farsi. He was Shafi, he was Hanafi, but they were all lovers of lovers, Ashiqan, from here to Hamadan. But they had boundaries according to Shariat, and without Shariat, you don't have any Haqiqat. You cannot reach Marifat or Gnosis, which is important. So we bring Rumi back to his position of Sharia. This is so good. Don't say siya. I don't want to be ya. Bring back your rooted revival. Without that, everything will be suicidal. We don't worship idols like the ones that we saw around Kaaba during the Prophet's time. That's not fine. That's not to shine. Modern paganism is to worship artists. I used to be hip-hop artist. That's not a smart, kid. I don't want to start this. It will be hazardous. That's why I want to reconnect to Islamic tradition so we can master this. Don't put me in a casket, kid, without saying that I can die before I die. That's the things that Hanafis and Qadiris and all these please used to say. And I'm high on love of the above. I am like a dove which is flying. I'm crying because I don't want to leave no Santara on Friday. I want to be here always, all day. I hope I can partner with IKRAM and also Akim. This is so good. It's not haram. And I know that I believe in rooted revival. I am from the Al-Sunnah and I'm so nice here. Hydro, and let's build bridges between intra and interfaith. Let's not show hate. Let's shape with love and muhabbat, mukhalafa, from the nafs mujahada, from the nafs mukashafa, with the nafs, riyadat al-nafs. This is good. No shafs. Let me say something else that I want to give you some help. I want you to see that Ahli Sunnah's tradition in the Persian culture is full with wealth. From the Mufassirin to the Muhaddithun, this is something I love, and we're not Majnoon, we're Mazloom. And then you can see scholars like Hujjatul Islam who connected with us. Revival from his Islamic psychology is so beautiful, pure like hum. And that's why I want to say not goodbye. I say let's do second part so we can see how much things we can take from the start of our tradition. And don't believe in nationalism. This is not a good ism. It's like bad, like feminism and all these isms that doesn't have Tawhid Idn. You see, Idn is a silsila and a sanad. We need a tradition and a sanad that connects us back to the Sahaba, the companions and the Prophet. He is the object of our love, but the love goes to Allah. His sunnah is something that brings so much awe that can bring us to the practice of Quran. That's all. So I will say goodbye. I hope we all can be alive for the second part, and may peace be upon all of you, and I love you all. Ameen. Barakallah feekum. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for everybody to listen. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. If I said anything wrong, did anything wrong, rest assured that all the mistakes are mine and all the good come from Allah. Jazakallah khairan for giving me the opportunity to speak. Wa alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.